On a crisp October morning in Willow Creek, Jake Carver stepped onto his porch, coffee mug steaming in his hand, the kind of ritual that grounded him before the day's chaos. The air smelled of damp leaves and pine, but something was off. A neon orange notice stapled to his railing, flapping like a taunt in the breeze. He froze, letting the mug's warmth seep into his palms as his eyes adjusted to the bold print. Saw violation of Clause 17. Loitering without purpose. Porch active VY tie exceeding 600 seconds must be purposeful. Saw his jaw tightened. 600 seconds? 10 minutes? He'd barely been out here long enough to sip his coffee. Across the street, the HOA's bulletin board leaned slightly beside the mailbox hut, casting a shadow that felt VY-er than it should. Jake tugged the notice free, the staple Leah VY-ing a splintered scar in the wood. Inside, his dad, Hank, sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the local paper, a plate of biscuits and eggs half-eaten. "They hit you too?" Jake asked, tossing the notice onto the table. Hank squinted over his glasses, fork pausing midair. "Well, damn. That woman's crazier than a fox in a henhouse." Jake slid into a chair, unfolding the paper. The signature at the bottom was sharp, familiar. Maureen, the HOA's iron-fisted chair. "You think this is her?" Jake asked. Hank leaned in, not touching the page. "That's her handwriting, all right. Bet my old truck on it." Hank pushed his plate aside and rummaged in a drawer, pulling out a faded HOA newsletter. He tapped a paragraph. Last spring's rules. Clause 17. Saw prolonged porch presence without EVY dent purpose may constitute VY Sewell disruption of communal atmosphere. Saw Jake read it aloud, his voice dripping with disbelief. Visual disruption? What's next? Finding us for breathing too loud. Hank shook his head. They're fixing to ban porches altogether. Jake grabbed a biscuit, chewing slowly as the kettle hissed on the counter. The kitchen hadn't changed since he was a kid. Same checkered curtains, same creaky floorboard by the sink. He stepped over it without thinking. "I'm heading to Pine Brew," Jake said, needing air. The cafe was a short walk, past a patch of fenced grass that used to be a dog run, now just mulch and a faded keep-off saw sign. Pumpkins lined the cafe's windows, some cracking in the sun. The bell chimed as Jake entered. "Refill?" asked Sam, the barista, already grabbing the pot. "Yeah, thanks," Jake said, sliding a few bucks across the counter. At a window table, Claring Wynn folded her newspaper with precise hands. "They're rewriting rules faster than we can read 'em," she said, nodding at Jake. Clause 17. Jake stirred his coffee. "Yup, you." Clara smirked. 18 and 22. They're up to 37 now. A guy at the back chuckled over his crossword. "Careful smiling too long. Might count as loitering." Jake walked home slower, the neighborhood's quiet feeling like it was holding its breath. Porches that once jingled with wind chimes now stood bare, save for HOA-approved planters. Back home, Hank was in the attic, the hatch groaning as he descended with a dusty cardboard tube. He slid out a brittle parchment parcel map from the original developer. "What's this?" Jake asked. Hank flattened it, anchoring the corners with his mug and a hammer. "Parcel 19, where they built that ugly mailbox hut. They never bought it." Jake traced the faded lines. "They think they own it." Hank tapped the map. "They don't. It's still in the developer's name." Jake's mind flickered to Maureen's failed dog park project years back, 2018, maybe. A few stakes in the ground, a tarp left behind, then nothing. "She tried a dog park once," Jake said. "Didn't last." Hank grunted. "'Cause she had no right to it. This land's up for grabs." By noon, they'd confirmed it with the county assessor. Parcel 19 was unclaimed, technically public. Hank pulled graph paper from a drawer, sketching plans. "We'll buy it," he said. "Build a dog park. Carver Dog Haven." Jake grinned. "Let's see how Maureen likes that." They filed the deed and got to work. Posts for benches, a water bowl station, a leash hook bracket. They planted a sign. "Saw future home of Carver Dog Haven. All welcome." Saw cars slowed as neighbors gawked. An elderly couple gave a thumbs up. Maureen's black SUV crawled by, her lips a tight line as she snapped a photo and sped off. Hank chuckled. "She's seen it. Game on." But the HOA struck back fast. A new notice arrived, stamped with their seal. Saw unauthorized public facility, parcel 19. Immediate halt required. Saw flyers sprouted overnight, pinned to poles and porches, screaming about safety violations and threats to community cohesion. Jake peeled one off his gate, shaking his head. What does this even mean? Hank tossed it in the trash. Means we're winning. Tension spiked when Maureen announced a cleanup day for parcel 19, a blatant power grab. But the neighborhood was stirring. At Pine Brew, Joanne, an older woman with a cane, handed Jake a jar of peach jam. They made me take down my doghouse last year. Said the wood was too decorative. Clara chimed in. They fined me for birdseed. Pest concern roller coaster. The fines were piling up, and people were noticing. Then came a game changer. Ethan, a quiet HOA worker, showed up at their garage with a weathered box. I was supposed to shred this, he said, voice low. I didn't. Inside were damning documents. Rejected permits for Maureen's dog park, selective fine memos targeting dissenters, even forged signatures. Jake's blood ran cold when he saw Ethan's name on a 2017 memo 2 years before he started. You saved this, Hank said, passing him a slice of pie. That's what counts. Lila Tran, a sharp lawyer, joined them, poring over the files. This isn't just sloppy, she said. It's forgery, suppression, misuse of dues. They drafted a legal packet, copying every regional official Maureen knew. At the next HOA meeting, Maureen stood under a Saw Community First Saw banner, her voice brittle. There's been an erosion of standards. Unauthorized structures, misuse of parcel 19. Hank stood, calm but firm, and passed forward their deed. Parcel 19's ours. Filed legally. Clara raised her hand. What rule bans benches or water bowls? The room buzzed. Joan spoke up. They fined me for birdseed, but let Maureen feed squirrels. Ethan cleared his throat. I signed off on reports I didn't write. Ignored requests. Highlighted names. She told me to. The silence was heavy, settling like dust. A motion to remove Maureen as chair came from a back. Seconded instantly. Hand shot up to Zen's. Maureen's didn't. The VYC president grabbed his coat and left. Maureen's gavel clattered, and she fled through a side door, heels clicking. The crowd spilled out the air lighter. Hank pinned a new flyer. Saw Dog Park Cleanup Day. Cider Pro, VY dead. All welcome. Saw. By morning, Carver Dog Haven was alive. Kids chased retrievers, frisbees soared, and thermoses steamed. Jake sat on his porch, a flannel blanket over his lap, the violation notice long trashed. Ethan pushed a wheelbarrow past, nodding to Clara, who handed him pumpkin bread. Lila worked at a picnic table, finalizing trust paperwork to preserve the park. Joanne's beagle tugged toward a water bowl, tail wagging. A carved sign gleamed. Saw respect what's shared. Protect what's yours. Saw. Jake walked the wood chip trail, the trees whispering overhead. Back on the porch, Lila joined him, files tucked under her arm. A retriever barked, chasing shadows. What's next? She asked. Jake sipped his coffee, exhaling peace. Maybe I'll sit a while, just because I can. Willow Creek felt like home again. Not a place ruled by fear, but one reclaimed by quiet courage. What started as a fine ended with benches, laughter, and a community finding its voice. Rules can divide when wielded for control, but when reclaimed with care, they unite us in something stronger belonging. So what do you think? Was Jake and Hank's rebellion justified? Or did they go too far? Should Maureen face legal consequences? Or is her ousting enough? How would you fight an overzealous HOA? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate.